It's Thursday night, our crypto night, and you're watching Crypto Trader, still the world's first and only cryptocurrency investment show. Remember, you can follow me at CryptoManRun, or you can tweet us at CNBC with the hashtag Crypto Trader. August is usually a quiet month on the markets, but not on the crypto markets. The crypto markets are at all-time highs, the volumes are at all-time highs, and there's lots of news moving this market. Joining me from New York City to help wrap up the news is Ari Paul, Chief Investment Officer of Block Tower Capital, a digital hedge fund. Ari, lots of stuff moving the markets. Bitcoin Cash seems to have caught a wake up. What do you make of that move?
Yeah, Ron, it's interesting. So Bitcoin doubled in the last month, and now it's kind of consolidating, which is giving a chance for other cryptocurrencies to make a move. Ethereum also has been kind of boring as a price, right, over the last week, certainly. It's kind of sitting around 310. So Bitcoin Cash was the big story, jumped up from $300 all the way up to $900, currently sitting at around $650. There's a few reasons for that. So one is the difficulty of Bitcoin Cash adjusted down, which made it really profitable for miners. So a bunch of miners shifted their hash power from Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash. And so we saw Bitcoin Cash suddenly become a more viable cryptocurrency. We saw a ton of buying on Korean exchanges.
So the Koreans are the ones driving up the volumes. The miners are, where are the miners situated?
It's mostly Chinese miners. It's a couple big pools. One thing to note, though, is Bitcoin Cash was listed on a bunch of Chinese exchanges in the last 24 hours. So a lot of that Korean volume was definitely Chinese, probably miners, Chinese retail trading on Korean exchanges, because that was the only place they could go to buy Bitcoin Cash.
Ari, what do you think the next week holds for Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash? Are you expecting this run in Bitcoin Cash to continue, or do you think it's seen its day?
It's tough to call because I don't know what the Chinese miners intend. So I think what's happened is the Chinese miners have bought up a lot of this Bitcoin Cash. So Jahan of Bitmain, he's been publicly asking Coinbase to list Bitcoin Cash to allow trading so that he can buy more and so the Coinbase customers can sell to him. So the question is, do they intend, now they've stockpiled this big position, do they intend to push it and market it, maybe as the Bitcoin of China or the Bitcoin of Asia? I don't know. I think it's a pretty good bet short term. So the difficulty of Bitcoin Cash just jumped up, and the hash power seems to be holding pretty strong, which is kind of basically it should have been a bearish event, but it wasn't. As a trader, that makes me bullish.
So we'll certainly be watching both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash this week. Ethereum, everybody has been calling a delayed run in Ethereum, and we're not seeing the run. Ethereum's been struggling along. What's going on there?
Ethereum, so first, when you have an asset that's been super volatile for a few months, it's very, very natural. Eventually, it has to take a breather. It has to consolidate. That's what we're seeing. There's two forces in Ethereum. So one is you had a bunch of ICOs that are competitors. So EOS and Tezos, they raised Ether, and they're competitors to Ethereum, so they sell that Ether on the open market. So Tezos very publicly sold almost the low at $150 on July 16th. The next wave of ICOs are built on top of Ethereum, they're ERC20, but they're probably not going to sell all their Ether. So you have a stock of ICOs that are selling their Ether that they're raising, and you have a new stock of ICOs that are going to be holding it. It's kind of a battle between those two. Personally, I am bullish medium term on Ethereum.
So with all this rise in ICOs and all this money being spent on ICOs, surely that's going to drive up the Ethereum price. Another one which caught my attention this week was Monero. It was listed on the Korean exchange, and this coin jumped. I saw it jump up about 80%. Is that right?
Yeah, so the privacy coins, particularly Monero and Zcash, have been two of my favorites for the last couple months. You think about what cryptocurrency is used for, privately transmitting the wealth, privately moving money is one of the key use cases. So it's kind of crazy to me that the privacy coins together aren't valued much, much higher. So I've been bullish on Monero and Zcash. I'm still bullish on them. The catalyst that caused Monero to jump was it was listed on BitHum, which is a giant South Korean exchange. Before that, Monero was mostly traded in the US. It was a US dollar phenomenon. And now suddenly it's accessible to Asia.
Are you putting your money on Zcash or are you putting your money on Monero?
So I had a meaningful Monero position and I'm letting it run. We haven't taken profits on it yet. I think, I believe in Monero as kind of a medium and long-term story. But as a short-term trade and medium-term, I like Zcash as a catch-up trade. So there's a lot of people who are going to say, wow, this privacy coin idea, these things are undervalued. I want to get in, but Monero's, I missed the boat. It already doubled. So what can I buy? Well, Zcash isn't up that much. So my favorite pick over the next week is Zcash.
So we had the CEO of Ripple on our show last week, and since then the token has doubled. I saw the token trading at around 30 cents. Is there still value in this token?
So Ripple is a truly innovative technology. It facilitates really, really fast transactions. It's an interesting consensus mechanism. Most of the people buying it, though, are not the target audience. So Ripple, for it to be successful, has to catch on with banks. The people driving the price up today, certainly not banks. It's retail speculators. As a trader, that always makes me cautious, right? Because that retail money, those people who are buying it just to make a buck, well, what happens when the market turns? They all run for the hills. So I like the Ripple team. I'm not attacking the technology or the team, but I don't like the price.
Ari, one last question before we let you go. For the next week, would you buy Bitcoin or would you buy Bitcoin Cash?
I like both, but for 1 week, Bitcoin Cash.
Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash? That seems to be the big debate. Jimmy Song is a Bitcoin core developer from Austin, Texas. Jimmy, thanks for coming on the show. Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash?
Bitcoin, obviously. I think there's a lot more infrastructure around it. There's the network effect. There's a lot of wallets and merchants and payment processors. I believe that Bitcoin is a lot better in that it has a infrastructure built around it already.
You would say that because you're a Bitcoin core developer, but if I look at the movements in Bitcoin Cash over the last week, Bitcoin Cash doubled over the last week. The miners seem to be supporting it. And it really seems to be the cash version of Bitcoin.
It very well may be. There's certainly room for two different types of coins. One for sort of a medium of exchange coin that's used for transacting, and another for a store of value coin where people are using to store value without it being affected by inflation and things like that.
So would you support two coins? Would you support Bitcoin Cash as the cash coin or the transactive coin, and Bitcoin as the gold or the store of value? Is that something that you'd support?
I don't know if I would say I would support it, but I do think that there's room for it, and it's certainly up to the market to decide whether or not it's something that it wants. And the fact that it's gone up in price may be an indicator that people are ready to use it as a transaction coin instead of maybe a store of value coin.
Jimmy, if we look at Satoshi's original white paper, the title of the white paper is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Isn't that what Bitcoin is supposed to be? Isn't this whole thing around a digital gold not really what Satoshi intended in his white paper?
What Satoshi intended and what it's become are two different things. That said, Bitcoin Core has a plan for SegWit and Lightning Network and things like that that will help it achieve a lot of the peer-to-peer cash properties that you're talking about.
Can you maybe shed some light on SegWit and SegWit 2x and what this actually means? But keep it simple. Give it to us in layman's terms.
Sure. Lightning Network is something like technical netting. Your viewers might be familiar with that. If I send you $50 and you send me $30, really it's just a net of $20. And if we have like 100 transactions like that where we're going back and forth, you really need one transaction to represent all of them. And that's what the Lightning Network will provide. There's something called payment channels that it utilizes in order to make that happen. But imagine being able to send some money instantaneously to all sorts of people all over the world. That's kind of what the vision of the Lightning Network is. Obviously, it needs some infrastructure. It needs some code changes, including SegWit, in order to do that. But the idea behind Lightning Network is so that you can have peer-to-peer transactions that are very quick and settle ultimately on the chain, but in a netted fashion.
Jimmy, is there any risk that the New York agreement, the one that implements SegWit, won't be adhered to? Is there any risk of another fork potentially?
There's certainly a risk of a hard fork in November. SegWit 2x is scheduled to hard fork the 2x part in about 3 months. So we'll see whether or not that causes a hard fork. My guess is that yes, it will, because there's enough of an opposition there, and you can't force everyone on the network to upgrade. It's a voluntary system. So it's very possible that that will happen, and that will likely cause another Bitcoin essentially. So we'll have at least 3.
Everywhere I go, I hear people who are making money out of Bitcoin mining. I want to know how to make money mining Bitcoin too. So this week I've got a very special guest on our show, and we're going to learn how to mine Bitcoin. Greg Morris is the CEO of RLB Systems, and he's a Bitcoin miner. Greg, I've got my hard hat on. Do I need it for our Bitcoin mining excursion?
Probably not, Ran.
What is Bitcoin mining? How does it work?
Essentially, Bitcoin mining is the decentralized network of computers that confirm Bitcoin transactions on the blockchain.
So the blockchain is a decentralized bunch of computers that confirm transactions. Are you saying that every single one of those computers is actually a miner?
The computers that confirm transactions are miners, correct.
Can I just plug my laptop in and start mining Bitcoin? Is that how it works?
You could do that in theory. You'd have to download some mining software. In fact, there's Mac specific software that allows you to mine Bitcoin and other cryptos. But ultimately, your machine's too slow, and you're going to mine at a rate of roughly 10,000 times less than you need to make it profitable.
So what do I need to actually mine Bitcoin properly?
You need a dedicated piece of machinery called an ASIC miner. It's an application-specific computing product dedicated to the task.
So I buy this special computer, which is made only for mining Bitcoin.
Correct.
Does it look like a computer?
It sort of looks like a toaster.
It looks like a toaster.
Looks like a toaster with a big fan on the one side.
And I plug it in.
Plug it in.
And this thing just runs, and I earn Bitcoin.
So it runs a version of Linux. You then typically decide whether you want to mine as an individual miner or whether you want to mine as part of a pool.
What's the difference between mining as an individual and being part of this pool?
So mining as an individual is called solo mining, and essentially then you're betting on the probability of you solving the cryptographic puzzle, effectively, that the Bitcoin miner aims to solve.
But slow down. What is a cryptographic puzzle? Explain to me, is it not as simple as I plug in my laptop and my laptop confirms transactions?
No,
what is a
it's not.
cryptographic puzzle?
So it's essentially a very complicated algorithm that is solved iteratively using this ASIC miner. And you compete against all the other miners to see who can essentially solve this puzzle first.
So what you're saying is, I plug in my computer, you plug in your computer, somebody else plugs in their computer, and we're all competing to solve an algorithm.
Correct.
And the first one to solve the algorithm is the one that gets the reward.
Correct.
And what
Correct.
is the reward for solving the algorithm?
So the reward currently is 12.5 Bitcoins, which is currently the block.
So 12.5 Bitcoins for every time I confirm a block.
Correct.
And who decides whether I'm going to be the one to even get this block to confirm?
That's a function of achieving this result first.
So the more powerful your computer, the more chance you have of solving this cryptographic algorithm.
Correct.
And being the one to confirm the transaction and therefore taking the 12.5 Bitcoins.
But now that simplifies things, because in practical terms, if you're mining on a solo basis, your chances of confirming first is equivalent to winning the lottery. So you could sit and mine and mine and mine and mine and earn nothing.
So what you're saying is much better to join a pool of miners.
Correct.
And kind of share the winnings between us.
Exactly.
Almost like a lottery. So if we all
Exactly.
buy a lottery ticket and we
Correct.
split the lottery winnings between us.
Correct.
What is this thing called cloud mining?
So cloud mining is effectively a mining farm where a company sets up a data center with hundreds or thousands of mining pieces of equipment, and they sell off capacity to individuals. So if you don't want to invest in your own mining equipment, you can invest in a share of an existing mine.
And then you've got much more chance of confirming the transaction, right?
No more chance of confirming the transactions than you would mining individually as part of a pool. The catch is, of course, you pay fees to be part of this mining pool, and you pay a premium for the equivalent hashing power, and hashing power is the computing power relative to what it would cost you to buy a piece of hardware.
Greg, in South Africa, electricity prices are high. We've got movements around data must fall. Can we make money, and how much money can we make mining in South Africa?
So in practical terms, if you take a single unit from Bitmain, the Antminer S9, which is their fastest machine, which mines at between 12.5 and 15 terahashes per second, you can earn net of electricity costs, let's say $15 a day, roughly speaking.
And what
at
does the
current
hardware cost?
prices. And the hardware is about $1,300 a unit.
And you can make $15 a day.
Yeah.
Great. So that's not the best return. I mean, you'll cover your machine $15 a day. You need 100 days to cover your machine.
That's a pretty decent
That's
return.
that's a great return, actually.
Yeah, exactly. There's a catch, of course. So there are a few catches. Firstly, you're betting on the Bitcoin price remaining roughly the same or growing. So there's a break-even point where if the price falls below that, you start to lose money. Although at the current pricing, it's pretty low, that break-even point. The other issue is as more miners join the pool, which typically happens while the price rises, there's a thing called a difficulty factor, which impacts what you can earn for every hash. So part of the algorithm limits the Bitcoin mining of a block to roughly 10 minutes. And if you can imagine, the more miners that join the pool, the likelihood of solving this puzzle sooner is going to increase. So in order to maintain the 10-minute time frame to earn a block, there's this difficulty factor within the algorithm increases over time. So essentially you earn less and less over time out of the same hardware. So eventually that hardware becomes redundant and you need to unplug it because it's going to cost you more in electricity than you earn.
But you can make money in South Africa mining Bitcoin.
In theory.
Great. Greg, thanks for joining us. Jamie Chennels is the CTO of Softtech and he's a crypto trader, joining me on the show to help us choose some tokens to buy for the week. Jamie, I pulled this chart the other day and it showed that if you would have bought certain coins from the beginning of the year until now, you would have made over 250 times your money. If you would have bought Neo, you would have made 250 times your money. If you would have bought Stratcoin, you would have made 80 times your money. Is this run over?
The trick we've got to be aware of is that there's a lot of news headlines about Bitcoin, but the market itself is really in its infancy. If we look to how the simple bringing of different coins online has affected this week's trading volumes, we've seen massive shifts in pricing based solely on one or two exchanges. And I think that's a real sign of there's a lot more to come.
Which coins and which exchanges did you see this week that made you feel that this run is just starting?
That's a good question. So, I mean, we witnessed the likes of Ripple, actually all of the movement coming out of the Korean exchanges, but Ripple coming online as well as Monero on Bithumb. And the resultant of that was really a market that's really eager to have access to this kind of asset, getting let loose, essentially. And
so what you're saying is that the Asian market is this like giant that's going to wake up and is driving cryptocurrency?
Definitely. I think there's still a lot more to come from them, and if anything, they are the early adopters.
Any other tokens that you're looking out for? Any other industries that you're looking out for that you think are going to run between now and the end of the year?
I think there is one coin in particular that stands out for a number of reasons. It's called the Golem Network Token, and it essentially offers a globally distributed supercomputer that put simply makes use of spare computing capacity on computers to process these large-scale computing tasks that would traditionally be farmed out to a data center and cost a hell of a lot of money. But what that means is that the man on the street can actually take advantage of his laptop or his desktop whilst he's asleep, literally hand it over to the network and let it make money for him.
So that's Golem. That's the world's biggest supercomputer. We're going to keep watching Golem. Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
So the blockchain has given rise to a whole lot of new types of entrepreneurs and a lot of people doing amazing things on the blockchain. One of those people is Chance Barnett. Chance is a serial entrepreneur and an investor. He's also the founder of CoinCircle and Crowdfund.
So at CoinCircle, we're designing and engineering the tokens that you see coming available on the market as ERC20 tokens on Ethereum. This is the next wave in finance. My previous company that I co-founded was Crowdfunder, which did equity finance or equity crowdfunding online. And now we're seeing finance really move into this more distributed and decentralized world. And that's what we do at CoinCircle. We help create the tokens that many of you see and buy on the market today.
What is engineering of tokens? Is it not as simple as I decide that I want to issue $1 million worth of tokens and I issue $1 million worth of tokens?
There's some incredible technology today, and that's in part why you've seen this incredible growth of the market. While there's a lot of new money going into both Bitcoin and Ether and other coins, at the heart of this really are what are called smart contracts. So while creating a basic token might not be that challenging from an engineering perspective with some of the tools today, what is really more complex and has a lot of interesting both economic and technical dynamics are the smart contracts that go into building a token. And that's really what you could call smart money or programmable money. And that speaks to both the relationship that people or holders of the token can have with the underlying issuer of the token or the company, and also that they can have with themselves. So what we're seeing is this creation of an incredible decentralized and distributed framework for how people interact, both around, say, a utility or even around money or finance. And so we're seeing incredible growth happen in this space on top of the existing blockchain-based networks that have grown, and now the smart contract technology that's really taking off.
Chance, give us a real-life example of something that you're working on that's exciting and that our viewers can relate to what this engineering of token actually means.
Well, I'm actually really excited. My partner and co-founder at CoinCircle, Eric Miller, was an early seed investor in an incredible company in the esports space that has been growing and doing incredibly well. That space has gone from a few $100 million as a nascent market to what will be over $1 billion market this year, and growing like crazy. These are online fans that love gaming, that go online to watch and participate and even wager around other gaming activity that's happening online. And so this company, Unicorn, that my partner invested in, had their own virtual currency for their esports platform. And this is 100% legal wagering in jurisdictions where it's legal. People would come in and bet on esports action. Really exciting growth. So we saw this. Eric had a relationship with the CEO, and they had this existing virtual currency that people were using in their own platform. What we've helped them do is to take that virtual currency and turn it into a cryptocurrency that has all types of benefits. One, it puts the company on the blockchain. It really makes more efficient the transactions that happen, and it can engage the community in holding the own cryptocurrency called Unicoin Gold. So I think we're going to hear from Raul, who's going to speak more about that.
It sounds very exciting, and in particular because what you guys are doing is you're taking an existing company that does have revenues and you're putting it on the blockchain. Joining us from Seattle is Raul Sood, the CEO of Unicorn, and we're going to be talking about how the blockchain and tokens are going to change his business. Raul, thanks for joining us on the show. You guys are an existing company and you guys are issuing a token. Give us some background about what you do and why you're issuing a token.
Sure. First, it's probably important to talk about esports because Unicorn is an esports betting business. Esports are giant video game competitions that happen all over the world. It is the fastest growing sport ever. There are literally hundreds of millions of fans that watch this stuff online, and they pack stadiums all over the world. About 3 years ago, I started Unicorn. This is after I left Microsoft Ventures after a few years of running ventures, and I'd been in the gaming industry for a very long time before that. We built Unicorn to be a bookmaker for esports, a legal, regulated bookmaker. So effectively what we do is we sit at the intersection of video games and legal gambling and sports effectively. And Unicorn creates odds for all of the major esports around the world. We also happen to create content. So we create written content and video content. We have team ownership. We have our own tournament series. We've become part of the fabric of the esports community in the last few years.
Tell us why you're issuing a token.
Sure. So a couple of years ago, we created something called the Unicoin. The reason we did that was because we currently operate in a couple of regulated markets for real money betting. We operate in Australia. We have a license in the Isle of Man. So we operate in the UK, New Zealand, Ireland, places like that. But we have customers all over the world who wanted to play on our platform, and we wanted to test out and run new betting products. And at the same time, we wanted to look at new markets to see where the potential was. So we created an internal token called the Unicoin, and we gave access to it for people all around the world. And we were surprised at the popularity of this coin. We started to see our pie chart for market share in the US get shrunk down with markets like Korea, Germany, places across Europe. There's people everywhere that love the Unicoin and love playing on the platform. So, after we've turned over around 250 million Unicoins, we started to get feedback from our customers saying, how can they get more usage out of the platform? how can they get more value out of the unicoins? You know, what other things can they do with the unicoins? How can they earn more unicoins? Things like that. So we started to look at, you know, what we could do for the next stage of the business. And we looked at, you know, blockchain. One of the reasons we looked at blockchain is one of our investors, Mark Cuban, contacted us about a year and a half ago and said we should start looking at this as it could change our business. And so we put a few pieces together. The first thing is blockchain allows us to have more transparency when it comes to AML, or anti-money laundering, and KYC. We can track transactions on the public ledger. At the same time, the Unicoin, if we converted that into our own ERC20 token, we could then, you know, give those tokens out to the market and do much more in terms of adding value to our platform. So that's why we decided to go down this route.
Certainly makes a lot of sense to introduce a token for that type of community. When does the token sale start? How much money are you raising? And how can our viewers get involved?
So the token sale will start in September. There's certainly a lot of interest with our community. You know, our community of users are registering every day for this token sale to be able to pick up unicoins. So as a result of that, we have to cap it. And so, you know, we're going to cap it at 100 million US dollars. And yeah, we're looking forward to getting it off the ground in late September.
We're certainly going to be following your token sale. Good luck with the token sale and stay in touch with us. We've had another great week on the crypto markets and we've had another great show. Just a reminder that I'll be on Twitter for the next hour at CryptoManRun to answer any questions that you may have about cryptocurrency. Until next week, Thursday night, our Crypto Night. Happy trading.